Did you know that only 10% of UK employees are actively engaged at work? We all want to feel that we're spending a large part of our life doing something meaningful, that our work means something. Yet 90% of employees here in the UK don't feel that way. And that for me is incredibly concerning. As leaders, how do we help? How can we energize, motivate, and align our teams so that they not only enjoy what they're doing, but they're making an impact too? Hi, I'm Chloe Temple, the founder of Pop and the ultimate offsites. And in this episode, we'll explore how team events and those moments you bring your team together outside of the day-to-day can be powerful catalysts for growth and connection, both for your team to connect with each other, but also for them to reconnect to why it is that they're doing what they're doing. If you're now stood there wondering which member of your team is in that 90% and you want solutions, this video is for you. So let's dive in. Pop it in the chat. How many team events do you do per year? The average team will have 1 to 2 events per year. And on average, if we're assuming that every team is doing like 1.5, I would conservatively estimate that just in the UK alone, almost £10 billion a year is being spent on team events. But we're spending a lot of money on team events. But when I've surveyed and when I've asked participants to explain, to rate the effectiveness, not necessarily the enjoyment, but the effectiveness of the offsites that they've attended, the average rating was a 6 out of 10. Now, if that was our net promoter score, I don't think we'd be very happy. If this was on my school report, I certainly would not have been happy as a high achiever. So it's not that they're terrible, but there's a huge opportunity to do better with them. So I have been, over the last couple of months, doing a lot of research to really understand how can we help leaders, where are the gaps? And I asked this question, what are the top 3 priorities when you're organizing team events? And some of you might have actually answered this for yourself. What the results came back, the top priority was a combination of creating a shared vision and aligning on values and goals and aligning the team on their strategic goals. I realized I asked a very similar question in 2 different ways, with 76% saying that this was the top priority of their events. Interestingly, that was even more so for those who were more tenured in their leadership and management. So for those with your more than 7 years management experience, 81% said that this was their top priority for their team events. The second bucket of priority was around building trust and openness within the team and strengthening team cohesion. So the goal of today's masterclass is to really look at what does a good offsite look like? Why is it important? And we're going to spend a bit of time on why we spend so much time and effort in doing them and pulling them together. But then I'll also then be sharing a 3-pronged success strategy, ultimate success formula for the ultimate offsite, but also 6 ways to set you up for success. And because I feel like I've learned more from the bad bosses that I've had in the past, or the bad examples of things that I've seen in the past, than I do from the good experiences. When we're in it, when it's working, we don't necessarily see and properly what it all looks pretty seamless. So a good leader, we might not necessarily be able to distinguish what is setting them apart. So we're going to spend quite a lot of time looking at the 6 biggest pitfalls that leaders run into or team events run into and how you can avoid them. And my encouragement after today's session is to take loads of notes and actually be thinking about, okay, right, I'm seeing this. How can you see this in the past ones that you've been on? What does that then mean for the ones that you've got coming up? And what can you do differently? Rather than me tell you exactly, what can you learn from what isn't working as well as what is? Sound good? So when you think back and reflect back on when you have in the past planned a team event, or if you haven't, this is what it can feel like. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about like a journey that a leader might go on from when they start to think about planning the event through to actually it taking place. Now, generally at the start, we can feel a lot of excitement. We can feel, okay, right, this is going to be great. We're going to get the date in the diary. We're going to lock that time away with the team. This is going to be good. We could do X, Y, and Z. It's going to be great. Awesome. But I'm not going to do the planning for it now. I'm going to delay the planning for a little bit later, but we'll just get that date in and we know it's going to happen and it's going to be great. Does that resonate? Then in the middle kind of stage, a few weeks or a few months has gone by, we start to think, oh, okay, right, actually it's not as far away as it once was. And actually we should start thinking about what should we fill it with? What should we do? And often the question that comes up is, what could we do that can be fun? Who can we get to come in and present? What we might align ourselves or allocate ourselves time to share our strategy. We might think, okay, right, I need to make sure that I've got some time in there to create the content. We might ask people from different departments or get an external speaker or external facilitator or someone. This is the planning stage where we're like, right, how are we going to fill it? And sometimes it can feel like, oh, right, if we've got a day can feel like a long time. Even 3 hours can feel like a long time. Or the flip reverse where you're like, I've got so much that I want to share. It just doesn't feel like enough. How are we going to make this work? So in the middle, it's this chess game that we feel like we're playing. And then towards the end, we have often left a lot of it to the last minute, later than we thought or initially planned that or intended that we were going to do. And we feel a little bit like this guy. If we don't, we definitely won't look like this guy, but we're just inside, we're like, oh my gosh, it's next week. I still haven't X, Y, and Z. I haven't even told the team necessarily what we're doing. I have allocated myself this time up front to share some strategy. I haven't even built that myself. I'm not actually clear what we're doing here. And it all starts to feel a bit stressful. Things pop up where if you're planning to do it all in person, a team member turns around and says, oh, hang on a minute, I actually can't make it. Can I come in virtually? And there's just a lot of things, the last minute things that pile up, where you're like, oh, I really just can't wait for this to be over. And I hope it goes okay. I hope it's worth it. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So the average leader spends between 13 to 30 hours on planning their events. More than half actually spend over 13 hours planning each event. And in general, leaders will spend between 1 to 3 months planning their events. Interestingly, those with more experience, they start the planning process further out. So those with more than 7 years experience are more likely to take over 4 months to actually plan the thing. Those with less than 3 years experience are really turning it around quite quickly. And it's on top of everything else that we're doing. When we become a leader or a manager, this is not on your job description. There is nowhere written event planner, bring your team together on your job description. And yet we know that we need to do it. We know that it's important. We know that we should do it. We know that it'll be worth it in the end, but it just feels like this pile of, oh God, that on top of everything else. The reason we allocate so much time and the reason we care is because, and this is one of the biggest fears that I hear from leaders around when they're planning events, is they do not want it to feel like a waste of time for the participants. And that's a lot of what we worry about. We want to make sure that it feels like a valuable use of their time and that they're not just sitting there waiting for the time to kick down so that they can get on to it. Because if we spent all of that time up front and the opportunity cost of what they all could be doing, ticking off their to-do list and in the day-to-day, we want to make sure that that is worth it. So from a leader's perspective, in terms of organizing it, it's all quite stressful. And we might not say it, but actually that's the experience of how we feel it. And a lot of what we're doing is on our own. So why the hell do we do it? Why do we do them? Why do we invest so much time in it? And I'm going to share quite quickly some reasons, I think good reasons for why we bring them about. The first is so we can be more strategic. Now, if you were to look at this line and you were to think, are your team above the line in terms of strategic or below the line? Are they reactive or are they strategic? And then if we were to think in terms of performance, if we were to overlay performance on the x-axis and create this into a quadrant, are they performing where you want them to? Is it really high performance or is it low performance? So which box within the quadrant would you find them in? Are they in non-stop crisis where actually they're reacting and the performance isn't where you necessarily want it to be? Now, when I say performance, I don't name tangible numbers. That can be a direction, but is it in line with the potential that you see for them? Or it could be that actually the performance is really strong. And I see this with a lot of like high growth organizations and teams that I work in, but they are just so busy, and just so much is going on. They're in this kind of agile but not strategic bucket. Or you're stuck in strategy. So you've got a really good, solid strategy, but actually it's just not translating into performance. Or where we would like to be is your team in sustainable success, which is strategic high performance. So I'm going to invite you to pop in the chat which of those 4 boxes would you say that your team are in right now. I have a step to get to. Expect them to be more strategic and not look for me for all the answers. Yes, really good. Combination of 2 and 3. Thank you for sharing. The majority of teams are sitting in 1, but teams that I have experienced, teams that I work with, are in that 1 bucket below the line. And I think we all want to live in unicorn land, as Ali says, up in that quadrant 4. So what I see from a lot of teams that I work with is a lot of busy work, not necessarily being super productive, but a lot of hand-holding, a lot of like doing stuff that in our minds might actually not need to be being done. And I think a lot of this behavior has come out of this constant firefighting, has come out of behaviors from the pandemic. When COVID first started, or whatever, and through the pandemic, everything felt urgent. Everything felt urgent and important. We were in this state of just constantly needing to respond and react. And most businesses, absolutely did incredibly well at responding so quickly, some shifting their entire organization, well, most forced to shift their entire organizations from almost exclusively in person, in the office, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, into work from home, and dealing with supply challenges, dealing with all of the uncertainty from a personal level that came from no one knowing what was going on, and the level of discomfort, the level of uncertainty, the level of fear. And my observation is, if you're familiar with the urgent, important matrix, everything felt urgent and important. And my observation is that a lot of teams have got stuck in that behavior, or a lot of individuals' mindsets have got stuck in that behavior of feeling like everything is urgent and important. And with the economic conditions being as they are, we don't feel that safe. We don't feel that secure. And therefore, it's compelling more busy work and this heightened sense of urgency. Does that resonate?
I think for me, Chloe, so yes, it does. I think the difference being that, so I do think everything is urgent, but I also think it's that everyone has stopped talking to each other about their own agenda.
Yeah.
And therefore, it might not be that everything is urgent, but we've got bigger to-do lists, because what one person's urgent is, if you're particularly me, who sits more in a service function, where they all come to me and say their thing is urgent, suddenly my team of 50 things that they are being told are all urgent, with a capacity to do 10, whereas pre-COVID, potentially, where businesses had their strategies for 5 years, everything was aligned, and they kind of looked holistically, and when a service function can only support 10 projects, this might just be it's happening to me, but I just think there's less overall talking. We've got one massive big kind of, this is what we're all going after, so everyone goes, oh, everyone knows the purpose, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, but that doesn't stop 50 of you coming to knock on my door and tell me that all of your things are the most important. would be my slight change to the feeling. It's that there's just less communication.
And because it's much more difficult to communicate, and we were able to have more meetings. We're having more meetings than we've ever done before. We're taking on more things. Our capacity almost kind of rose, but actually that's not sustainable. That is not sustainable. And people, as you say, are not communicating. And therefore, we're so busy that if we've got this, what I call like an illusion of productivity, it's like, oh yeah, we're achieving so much or doing so much, but are we actually achieving so much? We're doing so much, but are we actually achieving so much?
The irony being that actually COVID is a brilliant example of where businesses did work really well together.
Yeah.
They all were like, right, it's one thing we're going to do today. I mean, look, even just look globally, when the world came together, we found a vaccine within 8 months or whatever. That is a prime example of if everyone works together with one goal, look what we can achieve when everyone runs around like headless chickens. I don't know why I'm naming animals today, by the way. I see how many I can get in an hour. It's like we forgot what we learned within a year.
Yeah, 100%. You've got this kind of constant busyness, this not being strategic, being very highly reactive, and not really knowing, teams not really knowing what's important or communicating effectively around what's important, or even cross-communicating to prioritize what is important. On the other hand, you've got this disconnection that's come from us being more separate than we were before. And this comes through in the numbers. So 10% of, this is a Gallup's number, 10% of UK employees are actively engaged at work. That is so worrying. And this is between 2020 and 2022. The rolling average, only 10%. If we look at it in the States, only 1 in 5 are actually satisfied with where they work. And for me, this is incredibly personal. We want to feel like we're engaged in what we're doing. I've been on my own journey of depression, like over a decade of depression. And so whilst this book might not feel super relevant for what we're doing today, in it, Johann Hari talks about the 7 factors for depression, or 7 factors of depression outside of just genes. Now, I spent over 10 years of my life thinking that's just who I was. That was how I was genetically wired, was that I would always feel like that. But actually, when I read this book, I saw one of the factors that he talks about, one of the 7 causes of depression, is this disconnection from meaningful work. When we don't feel like we are connected to what we're doing, he articulates it incredibly well, so I won't try and do my own disjustice. But when work is enriching, life is fuller, and that spills over into other aspects of your life. But when work is deadening, you feel shattered at the end of the day. The worst stress for people isn't about having a lot of responsibility. It's about having to endure work that's monotonous, boring, soul-destroying, because their work touches no part of them that is them. People want to feel like they've had an impact and improved the world in some way. We want to feel like what we're doing in our day-to-day matters. And there is become a separation from that. And so these moments when we bring our teams together are so important to help us really connect with what it is that we are doing, why it is that we are doing that. It's also a huge opportunity for us to reconnect with each other. We are social animals. We are designed to be with each other. We're not designed to be on a screen like we are right now. We know every single one of we will be connecting in a different way if we were physically in person. And I'm not going to debate whether or not work from home is a good or a bad thing. I work primarily from home and I absolutely love it. This is my favorite place in the world. That's really sad, but my office space is my favorite room, favorite place to be in the world. I love work from home. However, there is a dark side to it as well. And if you're a fan of the Diary of a CEO podcast, you might have listened to this episode with Malcolm Gladwell, where they talk about work from home. And I think what was really interesting in it is they talk about the importance of belonging and feeling like you're part of something, and how that can feel separate when we're not together. And he also talks about the importance of, again, that meaningful work that came from Johan Hari's work, that what we are doing and feeling like what we're doing is necessary. Feel like we're part of something. He says, if we feel like we're part of something, then what's the point if it's just a paycheck? What have you reduced your life to? Now, I'm not going to debate, again, whether or not work from home is a good or a bad, but these moments that we bring our teams together are an opportunity for them to connect in a different way. The last one that I want to leave on is and why I think they can be so valuable is often if we want results. Is anyone familiar with Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team? Yeah. So if you're not, I highly recommend the book. But what Patrick talks about is that if you want a highly effective team, it starts with a foundation of trust. If you have an absence of trust, you can't have healthy conflict or debate. Your people are not willing or able to own up to their mistakes, point out and celebrate failures, share things that have not gone well, ask for help. If we don't trust each other, we cannot be working effectively with each other. It's always a red flag. I speak to a leader and they say, my team get on so well. We just all get on so brilliantly well. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. That's great. We all want, our teams to get on well. But if there is a lack of healthy conflict, if there is a lack of healthy debate, it signals that there is an absence of trust. And if you don't have trust, we have a fear of conflict. We can't have effectively all of the other aspects that we want that are above the line here. Like here's the reverse. If this is a high-performing team pyramid, it starts with that foundation of trust. And so our offsites are a really brilliant opportunity for us outside of the day-to-day to build and foster trust. It is not fluffy. It is so pivotal. We have to create space for our teams to be building trust in order for them to truly outperform. So it's my belief that if wielded wisely, offsites are a tool for exponential growth and connection. This professor at Harvard Business School predicts that actually not only hybrid work is here to stay, but actually in-person work days might no longer mean a trip into the office. So his predictions are that offsites become that form of connection, collaboration, innovation, those moments outside the office, be that in a local coffee shop or in a conference, in a park, where these moments will shift, that connection will shift outside of the physical office environment. And we've seen some organizations really making that shift to actually remove to work from anywhere. Dropbox have transformed all of their offices into studios, which you work from home, but we have these studios that are available for you to use to do your in-person collaboration, your in-person get-togethers. It's my belief that with the way that the world is moving, with the changes in team dynamics, with the changes in the world, that it's the teams and the leaders who learn how to utilize those moments that their team are coming together outside of the day-to-day, who will experience an advantage in the modern world of work. That's my belief. That's why I'm writing an entire book on it called The Offsite Advantage. Because what a good offsite can help you do is swap strategy, to do less but better, to pick your battles there, to innovate, but also to connect, to build trust and to build meaning and foster meaning. And the result of all of that, when we do that well, is that our teams are more likely to feel clear, energized, motivated, act and operate as one cohesive team, be more engaged and more aligned. These were just 6 of the top emotions that they want, or outcomes that leaders said that they most wanted from their team events. Number 1 by far was clarity. We want our teams to be clear on what they are doing. But unfortunately, not all offsites do that. And that is a wrap. hopefully you found that a useful reminder of why it's worth investing time and energy in creating team events. I know just how much energy, effort, and sometimes stress goes into them. But as I shared there, I reckon it's leaders who learn how to wield them wisely that will thrive. Look, I know that I am biased, but really there's nothing more potentially powerful and frankly more efficient than bringing your team together. So more tips, tools, and resources are coming your way, including the end of that masterclass that you've just watched, where we'll be sharing the 6 pitfalls leaders fall into and the 3I formula for the ultimate offsite experience. So stick around for that. And please, 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 if you have found this video in any way helpful, I have just one favor to ask. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is a new channel and we are on a mission to make a difference, and that really helps more than you could know. Until next time.